On the campus of one of America's leading universities.
There is a problem on the main hallway chalkboard. It took my colleagues and I more than 2 years to prove it. And I'm hoping that one of you might prove it by the end of the semester.
The most gifted mind to ever enter its classrooms.
This is correct. Who did this?
Is the person who cleans its floors.
Hello, welcome to the Damian and Devlin show, and this is our review of Good Will Hunting, the 1997 drama directed by Gus Van Sant and starring Matt Damon, Robin Williams, Ben Affleck, Minnie Driver, and Stellan Skarsgård. I think I'm saying that right. Skarsgård, you're right.
Skarsgård.
I never get those guys right. They're really great actors, but I never get their name right. But anyhow,
forgot the star of the movie too, Casey Affleck.
Oh, and Casey Affleck.
Yeah,
and
Casey Affleck.
Cole Hauser there. I think we got everybody. It's important. Anyhow, this is a movie that came out in 1997. It became a big surprise hit. And it actually is a really great story. It's, for anybody who doesn't know about it, it's about a young man who lives in South Boston. And he has a bit of an attitude and he's a janitor. And when he gets into trouble, they find out that he may be gifted, and he is put to a psychiatrist, and, well, he learns about himself, and in return, helps the psychiatrist, who also happens to be a little bit screwed up, too. That is not giving enough credit to this movie for what it is, but that's basically what it's about. This is actually two stories in one. Not only the story of the movie, but this is one of my favorite Hollywood stories, because this was written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and they were starving artists in Hollywood. They were getting bit roles here and there, and one day they decided to write a script, and the rest is history. They wound up writing themselves as Hollywood stars. They wound up winning the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Best Screenplay. They won Robin Williams his Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, and basically, it was like a Cinderella story. One minute they just were practically starving. Like, I remember watching interviews about how they were like, we need to do something, so let's write a script for us. And boy, did they write a great one. As I said, they won the Best Screenplay. The movie made over $200 million at the box office, gave Robin his definitely worthy Oscar, and this is our second time seeing this movie. What are your thoughts? I chose it, but we both agreed to it. We kind of both chose it because you agreed,
yeah.
And then
this is a really, really good movie. This was one of the first movies that you and I ever actually watched together. I think it was the second one that we watched together.
That, yeah.
And I remember, sitting down and watching it, and just the dynamic between Matt Damon's character and Robin Williams' character, it reminded me a lot of our interactions. And watching it again, I definitely still do agree. Me taking the role of the Matt Damon character, and you taking the role of the Robin Williams.
In fact, I think even more so. It's grown.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Then.
Not to say that we're 100% exactly like those characters. It's just those dynamics between the two of us. It touches a really deep part of my soul, and it helps make this movie so much better than it actually is. I do have to say that I really did enjoy this movie the first time I watched it, and I really did enjoy it the second time I watched it. I think it's one of those movies that if you're struggling with anything, any kind of like depression or anxiety, I think you should sit down and watch this movie, because there's an important lesson to be learned in it. And I don't want to say what that lesson is, because it actually kind of spoils it if I say it. But you definitely should treat yourself and watch this movie. It's important.
I agree. I love Good Will Hunting. I saw it 5 times in the theater, and every time I watched it, I found new essences to it. Shall we go into our positives?
Go for it.
First positive I'm going to start with is the script. This movie, I'm going to go, and not only is this one of my all-time favorite movies, but I think, and people might laugh at me on this, I think this is one of the most important films ever made.
I would agree 100% with that.
This movie, in 2 hours, tackles some of the main issues of life. And I won't spoil it, as you said, but we're talking about it deals with relationships between friends, lovers, parents. It deals with abuse of various different kinds. It deals with anxiety. It deals with being a smart genius and not knowing exactly where to deal with it. It deals with anger issue. Like, this deals with so many things. It doesn't answer every question, but it leads you in the right direction in pretty much everything, and that's the wonderful thing about it. It does answer questions, but it also leaves you room to go out and find out more about the answers that they put you on the path to.
Yeah, no,
Is that a good way of saying it?
Yeah, no. I guess I'm gonna
we'll go back and
basically
forth, yeah.
hijack your
No
positive
problem.
there. I feel like this script is not only powerful in the way that it delivers it, but it's also incredibly intelligent with the way that it's written. Every single character here feels like if you were walking through South Boston, if you were walking on the grounds of MIT or Harvard, you would find these people. They all feel real. They all are well delivered by the cast, and just the writing seems so natural, and that's why it comes off as so intelligent. Not to say that it has really smartly worded like verbiage. They don't use big words. It's just smart because it's natural and it feels so smooth. Like I said, take a walk through South Boston, Harvard, MIT, and you will run into these people. They are regular people just living their lives, and these regular people have a lot of problems, and the script is strong enough, is smart enough, and it's daring enough to tackle these problems. Yeah. And I definitely agree. It's incredibly brave and bold and smart. Yeah,
and it tackles like so many things. Like, it's not there's a lot of Boston references in this, but they also tackle things with like the Minnie Driver's characters from England, and she goes to Harvard, but she also comes off as a real character. She's a little bit pretentious, but not really when you get to know her. And that's the thing I love about this movie. It rips off layers of the characters. So just when they set up a stereotype, it's ripped away almost instantly, you know? You see the dynamic of relationships, whether it's the mentor kind of relationship that Matt Damon and Robin Williams has, to the friendship between Matt Damon and his various friends, to Robin Williams and Stellan Skarsgård's characters, who basically struggle with what is a successful life. And they both have views of it, and they both are not wrong. This movie is wonderful because it doesn't sit there and tell you this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong, this is right, but it tells you to think about certain things, look at things different ways, and it's just so beautiful. Gus Van Sant, I think, did a great job with this. I think he's done a couple of movies that have been hit and miss with me. I watch this movie and I start seeing the visuals. He does little moments. Like, here's a movie where they're already tackling a lot, and then he does a thing where they just show Will on a subway. And for some reason, it's important because you know his mind's thinking. And we've all had those moments where people would look at us and say, that's just a guy riding the bus or the train. But deep down inside, you know he's thinking about what his next move is, or confused at, I don't know what my next move is. And it's wonderful. They take those little moments. You made a great point. Like, when the characters are, like, the friends are all hanging out, it doesn't seem like scripts. It almost sounds like they started just saying stories in their lives and stuff. They tell jokes in this.
There's even a moment, like, one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is when they are first introduced to Stella, like Matt Damon's friends are introduced. Is it Stella? No. Is it Stella?
Stella.
Like the girl, Minnie
Driver's character. It's not Stella. It's I should know
wrong. It sounded wrong when I said it, but when they're all just sitting around a table, and then
Skylar,
that's what it is. And Ben Affleck is trying to like tell a story about his uncle, and they all talk about, oh, we've heard this story before, but Casey Affleck's character is like totally into the story, like, hang on a second, I've got a bunch of questions, this doesn't make sense. You have that character in your own life. You have to evaluate your friends. Somebody is that character. You have the strong silent type, played by the actor, I'm not sure what his name
Cole
is.
Hauser.
Cole Hauser. Everybody's got that kind of strong silent type loner kind of guy in the group as well, who he's there, he likes to have a good laugh, but he doesn't say a lot. Yeah. And then of course there's the two talk-a-lots, the two that are the primary members of the group, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, but everybody's involved with it. And that's one of my favorite moments of the movie, because not only does it show how natural they can be and how developed they can be, but it also goes on to show how much Skylar is as a character, and she's willing to laugh around and joke around, because she comes up with her own story too, and it's pretty funny. I
don't know if Good Will Hunting's taught in like movie like schools like that teach like movie, but I think it should. That scene is a perfect example. A typical person watching that thing would just think this is a throwaway scene. But when you watch it, you get everything. Ben Affleck trying to tell the story. Casey Affleck trying to always interrupt. The strong silent one even has to step up and say, you've heard this story.
Yeah, relax.
Skylar, Minnie Driver's character, is just listening to the story, and you can tell she's really like listening to it. And Matt Damon's kind of reacting to see if Skylar is clicking with the friends.
He's uncomfortable. Yeah. He may be a little bit embarrassed about the story that's about to be told, but then when she reacts in a positive manner, you notice in his body language that he suddenly just kind of relaxes.
And this movie is filled with that kind of stuff. And then from Gus Van Sant, you have to go to the cast. So well cast. Now, even if they wrote the script for themselves, they picked the right characters to do it. Like, if they flipped Ben and Matt, it might not have worked. Matt is perfect in this movie, and he goes on in his career, and he has really proven himself as an actor. Unfortunately, when this movie became the hottest things around, and Matt kind of took the I want to just do serious films, where Ben kind of went, I'm going to do the Hollywood stuff. But they both have proven themselves, Ben as a director and Matt as a star. Perfect. This is Robin Williams' best performance.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's so subtle. There are times where I'm blatantly looking at Robin Williams, but I see Sean most of the time. I almost forget it because everything is perfect to the T. Ben Affleck as the best friend is perfect. He's not perfect, and that's makes him perfect. He just is this guy that you can tell instantly he's the kind of guy who'll have your back. Yeah. Minnie Driver, I love her because they could have gone with somebody. Like, they could have gone with a different choice, maybe somebody more glamorous and stuff.
Go ahead and say it. They could have gone with your typical Hollywood bombshell.
Yeah.
But they didn't. She looks very normal.
Right, and she's pretty, but what makes her pretty is her confidence. Like, she comes up, to Will Hunting and says, you're an idiot. I've been sitting there for 45 minutes, and you had a shot, and you didn't even come to... That right there, to me... Even as a gay man, that is sexy as hell, that she's telling him, you still have a shot, but you should have took it earlier. So everybody is cast. Stellan Skarsgård, he's not really the villain in this movie. He comes off as it a little bit, but he plays it so well that you understand his motivations.
Yeah, he wants what's best for Will as much as Sean, Robin Williams' character, wants what's best for Will. And that's what causes them to come and crash heads so many times, is because they both have their own perspectives on what is right and how they were raised and what different routes that Will should take. And that's what is really amazing about this with regards to the cast. So definitely agree. Everybody nails their role in this. There's not a person that does not, and I don't think this movie is one of those movies that has a villain, to be quite honest.
No, you're right, it isn't. Because you never see him as that, because he has his motivations. What I also like, they show everybody's vulnerabilities. Everybody, and some people embrace their vulnerabilities in this movie, and other people realize their vulnerabilities, and others don't, but they still let it show, and they don't do it in a preachy sort of way. My final two positives are, I was surprised that this movie is over 20 years old now. Do the math. Yeah. And I was actually surprised how well the fashions and stuff stayed true, because
No, those denim jeans went out a long
Okay,
time
well,
ago.
I didn't see that because like there are times that you see like they're kind of wearing the douchey track pants and stuff, but I still see that a lot.
Yeah.
But I was surprised how well this held up, and I think it was because they make the choices. They just made they didn't go with over the top choices, and finally, I fell in love with this soundtrack, maybe because I saw it 5 times and I went and bought it. The main person who does the music is Elliott Smith. For me, you might not have seen it, but he doesn't overpower the film. It kind of reminded me of another movie from the past called The Graduate, where Simon and Garfunkel did some of the soundtrack, and it's very folk music sound. It's very in the back, but I started noticing it the more I watched this film, and it fits as a perfect backdrop. Sad thing, Elliott Smith died, and I don't even think he saw how big this soundtrack would grow and how he would get a cult following. I think it's some beautiful music, and if you get a chance to check it out, definitely check it out.
That makes me feel a little bit bad for what I'm going to say about my negative, is the fact that I thought the soundtrack actually kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about our positives. I don't have a lot of negatives with regards to this
No,
movie.
I don't either.
But the soundtrack is one of my negatives. I felt every time there was a song that came up or just an instrumental piece, I was like, this is awful indie garbage. So knowing that he died, I feel a little bit bad saying that.
But you should, because if you listen to the music, it's powerful stuff.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
It is. And make your own decisions. But
Yeah.
for me, I thought it was just trash. And I have a big problem with indie music for the most part. There's only a small amount of indie music that I can actually tolerate. This stuff just is not that at all. So I felt that, honestly, this is kind of a movie that doesn't need music. If there was no music at all in this movie, I think it would have been perfectly fine without it. I get that, okay, some moments might be a little bit more powerful with the music, but overall I felt it was a pretty poor soundtrack. That is honestly the only negative that I have for this movie.
I have no negatives in this movie either. Like, even watching this movie, I am just enamored by every choice that they made in this movie, whether it was the screenplay or the director made. Just the little nuances, even when they, talk and they flub lines, they just keep it going and it just feels so natural.
Yeah.
Everything. It sounds weird, but when you see a movie so many times, you start seeing really essences. And when I'm seeing stuff like when they're in the Harvard bar and I'm seeing that, all these people are well dressed and stuff, and I'm just seeing the nuances of the rips in Matt Damon's clothes, and you can actually see past that when you start seeing his personality. And I love that they made choices, because they're not obvious rips, but they're just small. But I love that if you were somebody at that bar and you were like maybe snobby, that's all you would see. But then as soon as his character shines, you don't really see that at all. And I love that they do stuff like that. This, without giving it away, this is one of the most powerful scenes in a movie that I have ever seen. And what I love about it is there are lots of big, wordy scenes. There's lots of great scenes. There's a scene with Robin Williams on a bench that nails life perfectly.
Powerful.
Yes.
Powerful.
I won't even begin to paraphrase it. You just need to see the movie for it. And then there's another part which is great, because my 2 favorite scenes in this movie is one that is all talk, and the other one uses words, but it's repetitive, and it's just as powerful as the one that has this beautiful monologue written. So, I commend Ben and Matt for... This is a script that started off as an action film, believe it or not.
What?
They were writing an action film about a really smart guy that the FBI or CIA want to get a hold of to be a code breaker. And as they kept sending it, people said, you know what? The best parts of your movie are the human aspects. And so as they began writing it, they started listening to people telling them, maybe this shouldn't be an action film.
Yeah.
And it was the best advice they were given.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have no negatives. I just think this is an important film. I think you know, people talk about other films as great. For me, this is a film I think every movie, if you want to be a movie fan, a movie reviewer, you need to see this movie. And like, I think you made a great point. If you are struggling with anything in your life, relationships, jobs, your future, relationships with your friends or your parents, this movie is going to help you see some light to it and probably change your life.
Absolutely.
Is that too much? Is that too much to say?
Because you never know. I'm sure it has changed people's lives, and if you haven't seen it, it very well may change your life. Just, we've been on this journey, and the journey has changed our lives, and there have been movies that we've seen that have really impacted us on this journey. So definitely treat yourself and take a good look at Good Will Hunting, because I'm giving this a 4.5. 4.5.
Excellent. And I am going full 5 stars on this one. This is not a surprise. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. And I can't see it falling that far in my lifetime, because even watching it today, the movie tackles so many subjects, and it's always entertaining. It's not preachy. There's funny parts in it. There's sentimental parts, dramatic parts, and it works. You know, it's just like it's done. I kind of want to, and any movie that leaves me wanting to know what happened to even the smallest of characters, I kind of want to know. But that being said, I'm glad they never did a sequel. So.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, but
we talked about Boyhood and the ending of Boyhood, where it should have just ended at a certain point. Yeah. And Good Will Hunting is the movie I believe we referenced in how they should have ended it, because it's ambiguous. You don't know what's going to happen. You are furthermore reinforced in the fact that you literally have just looked at a small chunk of people's lives. They've lived them up until that point. You join them for the journey, and now they're going to live the rest of their lives, but you won't be on that journey with them. So it's totally ambiguous, and you never know where your life's gonna go. Kind of like you never know where we're gonna go next week. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss out, and you always will be able to stay tuned in with us. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Academy Award winner Robin Williams, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Stellan Skarsgård, and Minnie Driver. Good Will Hunting.
My name is Batfleck, and I approve of this movie.